This presentation is the Homebase Site Administration Introduction. This presentation is for site managers that will be working on scheduling through the Homebase system. For site managers to set up an account on Homebase, the process is no different than any other volunteer. Please refer to the Homebase web app or mobile app introductory videos or the Homebase user guide. The process for volunteers getting signed up to work at the severe weather shelters, they will have to complete an application for a Washington State Emergency Worker Card, which will be submitted to the Department of Emergency Management. Background checks will be processed and badges created. If a volunteer qualifies to work at a severe weather shelter, the list will be sent to the shelter coordinator, who will then input the users into the Homebase system. Those users, when they're input, will receive an invitation by email or by text message to join Homebase. The Kitsap County Department of Emergency Management will be monitoring the weather on a daily basis. When they make a recommendation to open the shelters, they will notify the shelter coordinator. The shelter coordinator will put together a schedule of shifts at each location. Once those shifts are prepared, he will publish those shifts at 8 a.m. This will send an email and text notification to all volunteers and shelter managers. From the email you receive, you'll be able to scroll to the bottom of the email and click the Sign In to Trade Shifts button to load the Join Homebase website. The other option for logging into the website is to go directly to the website http://joinhomebase.com. Once the website is loaded, you will need to click the Sign In button, and then on the following page you'll need to enter your email and password and then click Sign In to complete logging into the website. Once you have logged in, you'll be directed to your personal homepage or dashboard. This will look identical to any other user on the Homebase system. In order for you to go through and approve shifts that volunteers have claimed, you'll need to take a few steps. First, make sure that you are set at the right location. In the top navigation bar, if you volunteer at multiple locations, you'll see a list that will show the different severe weather shelter sites. Make sure to select the site for which you will be approving shifts. The next step is to select the Schedule button to go to the Schedule to approve shifts. Below is a simple example of an open shift that has been claimed. You'll see in the Open Shifts row that there is one shift, a 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. volunteer shift. It has a red exclamation mark in the upper left-hand corner. This tells you, the site manager, that volunteers have made claims to this shift. In order to find which volunteers have made claims, push on the red exclamation button and a drop-down menu will appear. As you can see in this example, there are 3 different volunteers that have made a claim for this shift. Volunteers in this drop-down are listed in the order at which they claim the shift. If a volunteer has a conflict, in red there will be a notice that they have an issue, whether they have scheduled a shift at the same time at another location or they're already scheduled for the current time at your location. The site manager's job will be to select which volunteer will be approved to take this shift. From the drop-down menu, select the volunteer you would like to work the shift, and then push the Approve button. As soon as you push Approve, that claim request will be approved. Notification by email, text, or push notification will be sent to the volunteer picking up the shift that they have picked up that shift, and notification will be also sent to the other volunteers that had claimed the shift but will not be working. That notification will inform them that they will not be working this shift. So when should you approve shifts? The best answer is right away. The advantage of this is that once a shift is approved, it will no longer be listed as an open shift on the schedule for volunteers to claim. This will help ensure that volunteers see current information and that they're not signing up for shifts which have already been given to another volunteer. And can site managers claim shifts? In Homebase, shifts are automatically auto-approved for manager roles. So if a manager goes in and claims a shift, they will not have to be approved. They will automatically take that shift even if other volunteers have claimed it earlier. So if a site manager needs to fill a shift in order to staff a shelter, I'd suggest manually assigning them before activation. To manually assign a shift, either for volunteers that cannot or do not use the Homebase system, or to change who a shift is assigned to, press on the shift itself, and the drop-down menu will appear. From here, select the employee list to see all the volunteers at the location. Select the volunteer you would like to assign the shift to, and then press the Save button. The Save button makes the change temporary. In order to make this a permanent change, you will have to publish. Publishing shifts in Homebase just means taking any manual changes that you have done as a site manager and making them permanent. So whether you have edited information on a shift, reassigned a shift to another volunteer, or manually assigned a shift to a volunteer, these changes will require you to publish to make those changes permanent to the schedule. If volunteers have claimed shifts and you have made approvals, that does not require any publishing to be done. It's automatically handled by the system. But anything you do manually to make any changes to the schedule will require to be published. To know if you need to publish, in the upper right-hand corner of the schedule, you will see a button that says Current. If this says Current, that means that there are no changes that you need to do to the schedule. If instead this box is changed to Publish, and it includes a number, this means that there are changes that you have made that need to be published in order for that to be updated on other users' apps, and so that other site managers or volunteers can see the current schedule. Once you push the Publish button, a slide-out menu will appear. This will allow you to set who gets notified of these changes. Click on the Notifications box and you'll see the options for Notify Everyone on the team, Notify Team Members with Changes Only, and Do Not Notify Anyone. The most common selection here would be Notify Team Members with Changes Only. If you have manually reassigned a shift or manually assigned a shift to a volunteer, this will ensure that they get a notification that that change has been made. Once you have selected your notifications, push the Publish button. As a site manager in charge of scheduling for your location, you may run into an occasional shift conflict. These most likely occur if a volunteer signs up at multiple locations at the same time and is approved by both sites. It is also possible that a volunteer may have signed up for the same shift twice and accidentally been approved twice. You will need to address these conflicts in order to fix the schedule. To know if you have a conflict, above the schedule in Homebase, you'll see a tab that says Conflicting. In this example, it says Conflicting with 1 highlighted in red. If you push this button, it will gray out and hide all the other shifts on the schedule, showing only those shifts that have a conflict. Address the issues with these shifts, and then publish. This conflicting shift highlighting functionality within Homebase only works for shifts if there is an overlapping schedule. This does not account for any adjacent shift. So if a volunteer is signed up at one location from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and a different location from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., the software will not catch this issue. This is something that you will have to look for as a site manager when you're looking through your schedule. There are two primary views available in Homebase to see your shift schedule. The employee view will show a list of all the volunteers that are part of your team at the location for which you are assigning shifts. One of the functions that you should check to make this view more useful is to click in the menu bar here on Tools. A drop-down menu will appear, and from there click Shifts from All Locations. When you check this on, you will be able to see if volunteers are assigned a shift at another location at a glance. The other view that is available is called the Role View. To select this view in the drop-down menu, pick Role View. This will switch to a view where you will see the shifts listed not by the list of volunteers, but by the type of shift that is available. So if you have a role set for the shifts at your shelter called Shift Volunteer, you'll be able to see the list of shifts in order for that day and what volunteers assigned to that shift, or if that shift is still open. This is helpful to see a quick view of the schedule instead of having to scroll through a list of volunteers. If you have a need to produce a printed schedule, I would suggest use the Role View and press the Print button. A pop-up will appear. Choose white background and black text. This will produce a PDF file that will include the shifts, who they are assigned to, and any events for the current week. Events in Homebase are a helpful feature for the shelter coordinator and for site managers to leave information on the schedule for volunteers. Information that would be helpful on the schedule would include the mission number, the backup person for the day, and who the on-call site manager will be. Adding an event is simple. Hover over the day you would like to include the information and select the Add button. A drop-down will appear. Include an event title. Make sure to list this clearly, such as backup person, site manager, or mission number. Mission numbers will be included by the shelter coordinator. In the event description, you can include information like phone numbers. Since phone numbers are not available to volunteers using the Homebase app, in order for them to reach the backup person, they'll need a way to find this phone number. This is a great place to include this information. When you're finished, press Add Event. Please be aware that Homebase has a built-in messaging function. While this may work great for smaller teams, when you're dealing with upwards of 200 different volunteers messaging each other back and forth through the system or to the whole team can create a lot of extraneous messaging that should be happening between a site manager and a volunteer by email or by phone. But please be aware that some volunteers may use this. To tell if you have a message, the message buttons along the top will have a red button next to them. If you push this, the messages menu will slide out. The most recent message, or those that have not been addressed, will be listed at the top of the list and they'll be in a darker black color. If you would like to reach out and create a conversation with a volunteer or site manager through the messaging system, select the Edit button from this messaging menu to start a new conversation. Add your participants. From the drop-down box, select all the participants you would like included in the conversation, and push the Start button, and then type your message. Here are a few potential issues to be aware of as you're using Homebase to schedule volunteer shifts. If there are multiple managers simultaneously assigning shifts at a location, this can introduce some scheduling errors. As one site manager approves shifts, the other site managers may not see an updated schedule right away. They'll have to refresh their browsers to see any changes that have been made. So my suggestion is to have one single manager at a time approving shifts. On Homebase, managers do not require approval when they claim an open shift. They're automatically approved. If volunteers have claimed the shift prior, and a site manager goes through and claims an open shift, that site manager will automatically be assigned the shift, and any other volunteers that have made a claim to the shift will receive notification that that shift has gone to another user. This can be corrected and reassigned in Homebase, but please be aware that managers are automatically assigned when they sign up for a shift. Homebase does include some basic functionality to ensure that shifts do not have conflicts. So, for example, if a volunteer is accidentally signed up for the same shift at two different locations or to have overlapping hours between two different locations, the software will note that there's a conflict and allow the site manager to go through and resolve those conflicts. What the software does not do, however, is check for conflicts if there are adjacent shift scheduling issues. For example, if a volunteer works from a 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift at one location and is then approved for a schedule for 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. at another location, the software will not flag this as an issue. This is something that you'll have to do in Homebase, is to look through the employee view and ensure that there are no volunteers accidentally assigned to adjacent shifts at different shelters. We thank you so much for your participation in the Severe Weather Shelter program for Kitsap County. Your willingness to volunteer will help save lives.